I live in a small tight-knit affluent community in the Northwest. We are very religious, and everyone knows everyone's name. So, when Kelvin moved into town, everyone was like, who is this stranger? He moved from another state to work at the DMV on the other side of town. He is a Black American, so he kind of stood out in our community. We met in church. It was his first time coming to the church, so he was called to come in front to introduce himself. He got up, my name is Kelvin, I'm a civil servant. I was posted here not too long ago. I'd come to worship with you. He got his applause, and the lady on duty directed him to my table. That was the first encounter. I was supposed to write his details down and track his development in the church. Like I said, we are a tight-knit community. He asked my name that day and I told him. He asked for my number, and I gave it to him. So, on Sundays he'll call and ask if I would go to church. He'll walk from his house to mine, and we would drive in my car to church together. Soon, rumors were ripe in the church that the two of us were dating. They saw us and cast weird looks on our way. Groups gathered only to talk about us. Even our pastor called me to ask what was going on. Pastor, we are just friends and nothing else. We met in the Lord, so we won't do the things that the Almighty doesn't approve of. Forget the rumors. They just want to destroy the vine of friendship I have with him, but God is on our side. Not too long afterward, Kelvin asked me to be his girlfriend. I said, my brother in Christ. Why would you do that? Isn't friendship enough for you? I've taken you as my brother, so stop saying that. He said, everyone here knows that we are dating. We can't pretend to be deaf for so long. They see us and see how good we look together. It's the reason they call us a couple. Let's make their wishes come through because I've loved you for a very long time. So, you mean people are saying it so even if you don't like me that much, we should date just to satisfy their wish? Not at all. Didn't you hear me say that I love you? I do, and I want to make you mine. It's been an age-old dream. Give me some time. I will pray about it and hear what the Lord says about us. Lisa, you and this your thing. When will you stop? Should I be ashamed of being a reserved woman? We met in the house of God. It's the reason I have to take this to him in prayers. It took me 2 weeks to pray and think about it. I spoke to my parents about it, and they said that they didn't like the kind of attention it brings. I didn't want to live my life like I cared about what people say. That evening I came to his apartment for a visit, and he reminded me about it. I said yes, to him. I didn't like going in his apartment because he didn't have much of what he had I bought it for him. That night was the first time we were intimate. I wasn't a virgin, but I have only been with one guy. We dated for 3 months, and he asked me to marry him. I laughed. Marry you? What did you see? Who is chasing you? You're not even ready, so why the rush? He was a young social worker who had been posted not too long ago. He didn't have anything in his apartment. He didn't even have a TV in his room, and it's not by choice. The curtains in his room, I bought them. His mattress was on the floor. I made a bed for him so he could lift his mattress off the floor. All within 3 months. He lives like he is running away from something, like moving from town to town. So, I asked him, is that the reason you want us to marry? Because you see me as someone who has it all? Please, take your time and make your own. I'm not saying you should be rich before, but take your time. Use a year or 2 to build a foundation for yourself. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Then he started being jealous. I'm an administrator in a district assembly office. All the colleagues in my office were men and I vibed very well with them. This guy will see me walking with a colleague and he would be angry. He would see me talking on the phone and he would be asking me questions. Sometimes he screamed at me to cut the call. He knew the password to my phone and yet accused me of deleting messages and call log details. My explanations didn't work for him. He wanted to be with me all the time because when I was not with him, he thought I might be with someone else. I said, Kelvin, you look at the way I am and still suspect me of cheating? You may not respect me, but respect the respect I have for God and know that I won't do any of the things you suspect of me. It didn't change anything, but I wasn't worried. We dated for a year, and he came back with the marriage proposal again. I said no. I loved him, but the future was so important to me that I wasn't ready to gamble with it. He had worked for a year, but his finances were all over the place. He didn't have a car. He made plans to buy it, he couldn't even save enough money to make a down payment. Every month I asked how far you with it are, and he said, "Oh, by next month I will make a down payment." The month will roll into the next one and he still didn't have the car, yet he wanted to marry. I asked him, "So what have you put in place since we talked? Can you tell me your plans for us after marriage? Where are we going to live?" He answered, "But your parents have a big house already? Should we be thinking about all these?" I said no to the marriage. He said, "You're not serious. All my life, I haven't met a woman who is not serious about her life as you. Most women will jump and grab marriage in the sky. You're here playing with a man who is ready to marry you. Continue. How old are you now? You think you'll be beautiful all the time? You think you'll always have men running after you? You prayed to God, and he gave you me, but you're here toying with our destiny." I listened to him like a child would listen to a father. I got all the nuances in his speech and carefully predicted how our future would be if I marry a man like that. I told him, "You know what? Obviously, our dreams do not align. Go find one of the women who will grab you in the sky. I want to take my time." He responded, "Oh, I don't care. I already know it will come to this because you have men chasing after you. Go and chase after them too, but remember you won't stay beautiful forever. Beautiful flowers wilt. Leaves dry and fall. Women wrinkle. Your time will come." So, we broke up, I thought. But a month later he was back chasing me and apologizing for his harsh words. I hadn't moved on, but I wasn't ready to accept him back. I told my parent that we broke up and they were like good riddance, and that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. One day I saw him in church, he asked me for a ride, and I gave him one. On my way to drop him off he continued to beg me. I felt sorry for him so I accepted, but I didn't go all in. I was keeping him as a friend when one day he asked for a $7,000 loan from him to buy a car, or at least make a down payment. Because his credit was bad, he told me that he had found a better job that pays more. He promised to pay an installment. I didn't believe him till I saw the acceptance letter. I also called the number, and somebody picked up. I have a lot of money saved, so I wasn't going to be broke. I borrowed him the money. Moreover, I was happy that he was trying to better his life. I thought he was finally listening to my advice. I gave him the money on Thanksgiving, and he went back home for the Thanksgiving break. After he took the money from me, he traveled to his hometown. A few days later, I heard Kelvin was married. I told the informant, "You better stop those gossips you people go around making about innocent people. How can Kelvin get married, and I wouldn't know? How can he get married and not invite anyone?" She laughed and showed me the social media post. I thought it was fake news or some photo editing trick, so I called Kelvin, and his response was, "I thought you weren't going to marry me? Maybe it's because of my race, maybe you are a racist. I don't know, but I can't be chasing you around, and I couldn't wait until I'm old and gray before you stop worrying about what people would think." I was like, "Kelvin, are you alright? Is that what you have to tell me? No, you're not alright. I have dated you for over a year and you think that I care what people think. You just proved my point by taking my money and running away. May God forgive you." News was spreading like wildfire in my small community. Everyone in the church was shocked, but then, they turned on me, making a mockery of me. Those who didn't know anything about the story said I've invested in him and brought shame to myself only for him to marry another. I don't miss him. How can you miss a man who can't afford to buy a car for himself or buy curtains to decorate his own room? I haven't missed anything. The pain I went through was because of the deception. He came back after the breakup only to get married. Anyway, we moved on. To make matters worse, he called me a few days later saying that he is moving back to my town. I told him that he need to pay me back the money he owes me, and he promised to pay it in installment as agreed upon. I told him that we agreed that he was supposed to pay me this past month, but he haven't paid me anything. He came back with his wife and even came to church with her. Oh, and guess what? He married a black woman. And there is more, he didn't even buy the car that he took the money from me to buy, the car he was driving was her car. The attention should have been on them, but they rather looked at me instead. I was thinking why he has to come back here. Maybe to rub it on my face. Our pain, our shame, our low moments, and even our joy have a way of going away. So, I healed. He promises to pay me back the money. And true to his character, he keeps giving me the runaround. It got to a point I got tired of asking him to pay me, so I took him to small claim court. When we got to the court, he denied owing me money, saying that it was a gift. He didn't know that I still have the payment slip and a promissory note, where he promised to pay me back, and I recorded our voice conversation. Judgment was rendered against him, and he was ordered to keep our original arrangement. Instead of transferring the money to my account, he made a point to bring the money to me himself, as a way to torment me. He would say things like, "You know it's you I want. You know I'd wanted to marry you at all costs, but you didn't care for me, and you were worried about what people would say. Now, look at me. You made me marry another woman." I paid him no attention. Then his calls started coming endlessly. Messages and voice notes, all seeking to get me back into his life. I told him one day, "When I pray for you. May God change your heart so you can respect the marriage you're in. Leave me alone." He had the gut to come to my place and even try to force his way through me. I screamed out loud and he quickly arranged himself and dashed out before anyone comes to see him. He never stopped. He had been married for almost a year, but he still pursues me. When I started dating another guy, he was still texting me, so I gathered all the messages and voice notes he had sent me and gave them to his wife when I saw her in church. She thanked me for telling her and she ended their marriage. The last call I received from him was him threatening me for exposing him to his wife. He is not smart enough to know that I have records of it, and if anything happens to me, he would be responsible. Gladly, after his wife divorced him, he stopped coming to our church. When I haven't seen him for months, I decided to check his social media and found out that he had moved on to another town, and he is married to another woman, a white woman to be exact.